to make a decision. When you prepare to disembark your ship, there are going to be two choices for you to decide when it comes to getting the bags off. You either can handle your luggage on your own, which is called self-carry or self-assist, or you can check those bags and allow the cruise line to handle that for you, kind of like checking your bags on a flight. So let's dive into the pros and cons of self-carry, also sometimes called express walk-off or express disembarkation, compared to checking your luggage upon cruise disembarkation. Weighing the pros and cons, you can then decide what is best for you. I'll also address the question of how long it takes to disembark a cruise ship. On the final evening of your sailing, your cruise line will provide luggage tags to you, or in some cases, you have to go pick them up at a specific designated location. Now, this only applies if you decide to check your luggage. Cruisers who decide to check their luggage are expected to fully pack their bags, tag their luggage, and place it outside their stateroom door by a certain time. It's usually pretty late in the evening, around midnight to 1 a.m. First, let's talk about the pros and cons of self-carrying, and then we'll talk about the pros and cons of checked bags. First, when it comes to the benefits of self-carry, I like this option because it gives cruisers the most flexibility. You aren't beholden to the cruise line to pick up and deliver your luggage. I generally prefer to self-carry, especially if I have an earlier return flight home and I want or need to get off that ship as soon as possible. You can almost always get off the ship faster if you self-assist. Another benefit is you don't have to stress about how to pack your stuff the night before and making sure that you have all your important stuff and a change of clothes with you and not in your checked bags, because everything's in your possession at all times. You also don't have to rush on the night before disembarkation to pack. You can wait till the morning of disembarkation to do it if that's what you want. Another benefit is that it's much more secure, as your luggage isn't leaving your hands. The downside of self-carry is that it's unfortunately a poor choice for those who have physical or mobility issues, because that means you've got to lug around these heavy bags from your stateroom down the hall, up or down stairs. Elevators are always a mess on disembarkation day, and down the gangway and through the terminal exit. Now, even for cruisers with no impediments, this option still requires quite a bit of wrangling, which can prove annoying if you have a lot of pieces of luggage or heavy pieces. Now, if I'm in no rush to disembark, for instance, I have a later flight in the day, I'll sometimes check my bags just to avoid the hassle and burden of having to carry them around with me. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of checking your bags and letting the cruise line handle getting them off the ship. First, the benefits. The biggest upside of checking your bags is the ease and convenience of not having to carry them around with you on the morning of disembarkation. Many cruisers, time permitting based on their transportation plans home, may choose to enjoy that one last free breakfast on the ship, either in the buffet or in the main dining room. Having to deal with bulky or heavy luggage while you're doing that can be kind of annoying. Walking off the ship free-handed is a nice convenience. Now, the downsides of checking your bags. Checking your bags means that you're taking the chance that the cruise line may lose or damage your bags, or it happens, something might get stolen out of your bag. You're also giving up time flexibility because you have to wait for your bags once you're off the ship and in the terminal waiting area. Now, in my experience, I rarely check my bags, but when I have, it's been a pretty quick process. Usually my bags have been waiting for me when I get to the cruise terminal, but that's not always a guarantee. I have heard some horror stories about delays with checked bags and people having to wait hours for them. Now, when you check your bags, you also have the added chore of having to pack carefully the evening before. In one of my cruise social media groups, I heard a funny story of a woman who thought she had left out an outfit to wear on disembarkation morning, but she accidentally packed all of her clothes, put it outside to check it, and that bag was gone. So the morning of disembarkation, all she had was the pajamas on her back. So she was frantically trying to find clothes to borrow from a fellow cruiser. Now, when I opt to check my luggage, I usually check just my suitcase and I keep a backpack with me, and I'm always super careful to keep back clothes to wear on disembarkation day. And of course, you'll always want to make sure that you keep with you on your person any valuables, especially your passport, and make sure you don't accidentally pack those in your checked bags. A common question is whether or not cruise lines scan your bags or luggage. Now, it's interesting because while cruise luggage is scanned upon embarking the ship, generally this does not happen upon disembarkation. Before exiting the cruise terminal, guests may be asked by Customs and Border Protection for a brief check of luggage and a verbal declaration of any merchandise purchased while you're on the cruise. If you have any unpackaged foods, they're generally not allowed to be taken off the ship, and they may be confiscated or likely just ask you to toss them. You will not be allowed to exit the ship without your ship card, and all cruise lines call this something different. Royal Caribbean calls it a Sea Pass, Carnival calls it a Sail and Sign card. Other cruise lines like Virgin Voyages, they don't use a card at all, but they use a bracelet, and Royal and Princess uses a medallion. All cruise lines require that you scan out because, of course, this is the way they track all the cruisers, where they are, and can verify that everyone is off the ship. You will not be permitted to disembark without your ship card. So if for whatever reason you lose it on the last night, you'll have to trek down to guest services to get a replacement. Now, when you're exiting the ship at that point, you'll generally need just your ship card. They'll scan you out, then you'll walk down the gangway into the cruise terminal, and there you'll be greeted usually with 2 separate lines, assuming it's a cruise from the United States. You'll have one line for cruisers with a passport, and you'll have one line for those who do not have a passport and are sailing with a birth certificate and ID. Generally, the passport line moves much faster, but that's not a guarantee. If you're sailing with a passport, facial recognition now makes the process super fast and easy, and you likely do not even need to show your physical passport to exit. After you've cleared customs, you'll exit the terminal, where you may be greeted with a bit of chaos as embarking cruisers come in as you and your fellow shipmates are trying to disembark, all happening at the same time. Now, the million-dollar question: how long does it take to disembark a cruise ship? By the way, debark and disembark, they mean the same thing, and they're both acceptable and synonymous interchangeable terms. But many cruisers are curious about how long it takes to disembark from a cruise ship. And the answer is, it depends. In my experience, it has varied widely. I disembarked once in less than 20 minutes. Basically, everything aligned nicely and I walked right off the ship. No line, went right through the customs line in the terminal, facial recognition, literally 20 minutes from my stateroom to the curb. On other sailings though, it's taken upwards of an hour or more due to bottlenecks in the debarkation process. That can happen for a million different reasons. Carnival recently rolled out its digital debarkation process, whereby cruisers can use their Hub app to select their disembarkation time slot and preferences. And innovations and updates like these have just continued to make the process of debarkation or disembarkation even more smooth and efficient for many of the cruise lines. Another common question is, how early can I get off a cruise ship? If you're in a hurry to disembark to, say, maybe catch an early flight back home or for any other reason, you can often purchase the cruise line's priority access. For example, Carnival's Faster to the Fun option benefits you by allowing you to be in one of those first groups of people off the ship. Sometimes cruisers that have top-tier loyalty status with the cruise line also enjoy benefits like priority disembarkation. Now, a way that you can speed up disembarkation without status or without paying for it is to self-carry. Self-carrying your bags is generally one of the faster paths to exiting a ship quickly. You don't have to usually wait for your group to be called based upon your checked bag group. While it's advisable not to book a flight back home too early from the port city, I usually recommend booking a flight home after the noon hour. It is possible to catch an earlier flight. You will need to account for the transport time from the cruise terminal to the airport, or in some cases, like with Port Canaveral or Galveston, that can be upwards of an hour depending on traffic. But self-carrying your bags off and selecting that earliest possible debarkation or disembarkation time will increase your chances of making an earlier flight home. I do not recommend this, but I have made a flight home as early as 10:15 in the morning. But try to schedule it at noon or later.